6th grade. So we are in our week talking about inventors. Yesterday we talked about Thomas Edison, and today we're going to learn a little bit about Alexander Graham Bell.
And so we know that these inventors didn't give up. When we did Thomas Edison, we saw that he didn't give up when he was making the light bulb. He tried many, many times with many materials, and he persevered so that we could have an easier life. And so today's inventor also persevered and also made something to make our life easier. So let's watch the video on Thomas Edison. We want you to be thinking of a few facts that you're learning about Thomas Edison in this video, because we're going to be filling out our inventor's worksheet just like yesterday that we did for or Thomas Edison yesterday. Today we want you to be thinking about facts about Alexander Graham Bell that you can write in your inventor's paper. So think about what you're learning, and then what would it be like if we didn't have his invention. So let's go ahead and get started in watching.
Hi, Moby. It's Annie. I'm learning about the invention of the telephone. Who was Alexander Graham Bell? Alexander Graham Bell was born on March 3rd, 1847, in Edinburgh, Scotland. His mother was deaf and couldn't hear, but she was also a pianist. His father was a teacher and taught deaf students how to communicate. Alexander learned how to communicate with his mother using his hands and fingers. As a kid, Alexander liked to study different things and conduct experiments. When he was 12, Alexander made his first invention. It was a device that separated wheat kernels from the husks easily. A device is a machine that has a special job or goal. Later, he became a teacher of deaf students, just like his father. One of his students was Helen Keller. Bell was interested in how people communicate and finding ways to make communication faster and easier. How did Alexander Graham Bell invent the telephone? In the 1800s, people sent messages through telegraphs. The telegraph sent and received signals over a wire. The signals were a code that spelled out a message. Alexander Graham Bell and other inventors, including Thomas Edison and Elisha Gray, were all trying to find ways to communicate speech over a wire. Bell and his assistant, Thomas Watson, worked on a device that could take sounds and change it into signals that traveled over a wire. Then, another device could receive the signals and change them back into sounds. Bell spoke into their invention and said, "Come here, Watson. I need you." It worked. Bell filed a patent with the government. A patent is a set of rights allowing an inventor to be the only person to make or sell the invention for a period of time. Although other inventors were working on similar inventions, many people believe Bell was the first to create a device that could send and receive speech clearly. Bell traveled to different countries to show his invention, and more people began using telephones. Today, many people use telephones every day. Bell continued to create and build more inventions. What else did Alexander Graham Bell create? In 1877, Thomas Edison developed a machine that could play and record sound, called a phonograph. Bell and other scientists improved the invention by changing the design and some of its parts. On July 2, 1881, President James Garfield was shot. Bell invented a metal detector to help find the bullets so they could be removed. The device worked, but they couldn't find the bullets because of other problems. Then Bell began experimenting with kites and explored different shapes and cloth. He used what he learned to explore flight and design airplanes. He and other scientists built a plane that had specially shaped wings covered in cloth.
All right, so we just learned that Alexander Graham Bell created a lot more things than just the telephone, right? What are some facts that you thought of throughout the video? You're going to think of those and you're going to put them right here on this box, just like we did.
So some of the things that we wrote is that he made his first invention when he was 12. I bet he had a curious mind just like Thomas Edison. When you're young and you're curious and you're starting to pull things apart to see how things work, that's someone that's curious. And so I bet he had a curious mind as well.
He also became a teacher for deaf students, which is really cool because his dad was also a teacher for deaf students. So that's a fun fact.
And then he invented a metal detector. Did you hear that? He helped the president when the president got shot. And so that's something that's still used today is metal detectors. People will often go to the beach and you'll see them with a little metal detector trying to find like coins in the sand. So Bell was one of the first people that invented one.
So remember, fill out what you learned on here. On these lines, what we want you to put is how life would be different if it was never invented. So think of something that would, or how life would be if he never created the phone.
That'd be hard, right? First of all, we couldn't play our games that we get to do now on our phones, but those weren't the kind of phones he had back then. They just were used to communicate. But can you imagine if you couldn't call grandma and if she lives far away? If you didn't have a phone, we couldn't do that. We'd have to still write letters or do what they used to have, like the telegraph. So the phone was a really cool invention, but what would it be like without that? And then tomorrow we'll learn about one more inventor. And then Thursday, we're going to talk, Thursday and Friday, we're going to talk about an inventor who invented something by accident. And his accident was something that we really love. So we'll do that on Thursday and Friday.
Bye, first grade.